He thought he'd found his dream home, a quiet suburban house with a white picket fence. But 2 weeks after moving in, he was found dead in his garage. The only clue? A shredded letter from the HOA. The cul-de-sac on Maple Ridge Lane was everything Thomas Radley had been dreaming of. After years of saving and planning, 32-year-old Thomas, a software engineer from Denver, had finally closed on his first home. Nestled in a well-manicured neighborhood governed by the prestigious Willow Creek Homeowners Association, the house was pristine. The lawn trimmed to perfection, mailboxes aligned, identical paint tones. The HOA took pride in uniformity. He got a great deal, too. The house had been empty for months, the previous owners leaving abruptly under mysterious circumstances. But Thomas wasn't superstitious. He was excited. New town, new job, new life. He moved in on a Saturday, and by Monday he was already attending HOA orientation. The meeting was odd. Mrs. Eloise Cartwright, the HOA president, was a rigid woman in her 70s with a sharp gaze and a fake smile. The rest of the board sat stiffly beside her in the clubhouse. "We expect residents to follow all guidelines. No exceptions," she said while handing him the bylaws, 83 pages long. Thomas chuckled nervously and replied, "Got it. No pink flamingos or solar lights." Nobody laughed. Later that evening, Thomas found a typed note on his doorstep. "Your front blinds are unapproved. Fixed by Friday. HOA compliance." The blinds had come with the house. He replaced them. The next day, another note. "Trash cans visible for more than 15 minutes after pickup is a violation." Thomas was beginning to understand why the property had been sitting for so long. By the end of his first week, Thomas had received 5 citations. His neighbor, an elderly man named Craig, warned him, "They don't like newcomers. You got to keep your head down. Some folks who challenge the HOA, they don't live here anymore." He laughed afterward, but something in his eyes made Thomas uneasy. Things escalated quickly. On day 10, Thomas woke up to find red spray paint on his garage. Follow the rules. No cameras had caught it. The HOA claimed it must be local teens. Thomas reported it to the police. They took a report but didn't investigate further. "HOA disputes are civil matters," the officer said with a shrug. Day 13. Another note. This one in a different tone. "You were warned. We are watching. Leave." Now Thomas was scared. He sent photos to his sister, Natalie, who lived 3 hours away. She begged him to come stay with her until things calmed down. He agreed. He'd pack in the morning. But he never made it. Day 14. Thomas was found dead in his garage. His car was running. The door was closed. Carbon monoxide filled the air. It looked like suicide until police found his packed suitcase near the front door. And in the trash, a torn letter, mostly burned, but the part that remained said, "Don't think we won't do what we did to the last one." He didn't obey either. "This is your final." Detective Maria Holland had worked homicide for 9 years, but something about the Thomas Radley case immediately felt off. She stood in his open garage, hands on her hips, frowning at the spotless concrete. No oil stains. This guy's car was barely driven. The ME had ruled the cause of death as carbon monoxide poisoning, likely self-inflicted, they said. But Maria didn't buy it. Why would someone pack a suitcase and plan to leave if they were going to end it all? Why would someone tape up a towel under the garage door to keep fumes inside, unless they were trying to send a message? There were no fingerprints on the garage door button, none on the handle either. Just Thomas. Too neat. Too easy. Across the street, a curtain fluttered. Maria turned her head, just in time to catch a woman ducking behind the window. Nosy neighbors weren't uncommon at crime scenes. But there was a stiffness here. The entire neighborhood felt rehearsed, like everyone had practiced how to be quiet. Maria knocked on doors. Most residents were polite, but vague. No, never really spoke to him. New guy. Kept to himself. We heard the sirens, of course. Poor boy. But when she got to Craig Baldwin, the older man who lived next door, the story shifted. He wasn't planning to kill himself, Craig said flatly. "I know what that looks like. My brother took his own life." Thomas was scared, but he was a fighter. Maria narrowed her eyes. "Scared of what?" Craig looked around, then pulled her onto his porch, away from the camera above his own garage. The HOA. Maria raised an eyebrow. You're telling me the homeowners association had something to do with his death? Craig nodded. Look, you'll think I'm crazy, but people who cause trouble here, they disappear. Last year, a woman named Lisa Graham fought the HOA over a fence height. She slipped in her bathtub. 6 months before that, Dan Patel was building a deck they didn't approve. Sudden heart attack. People die Craig. Yeah, but they all die after they cross Cartwright and are bored. Maria dug into HOA records. Turns out, Thomas had submitted an official complaint 3 days before his death. He accused the HOA of harassment, property defacement, and stalking. The complaint had never been logged. It vanished. She also found something else, a former board member, Henry Quill, who'd resigned last year. No one said why. Maria called him. He hesitated, then agreed to meet her in a diner outside of Willow Creek. When she arrived, Henry was already seated, sipping coffee with trembling hands. I shouldn't be talking to you, he said without looking up. They'll know. Who? The board. Cartwright. You don't understand. It's not just HOA fines and citations. These people, they're organized, and they've covered up more than one death. Thomas Radley is just the latest. Maria leaned in. What do you mean covered up? They know someone on the inside, a guy who used to work in code enforcement. He helps them fudge the paperwork, make violations disappear, rewrite timelines. If you dig deeper, look for a guy named Clive Robards. Where can I find him? Henry shook his head. You won't. He lives 2 towns over now. They don't let people go once they're in too deep. As Maria pressed for more details, Henry suddenly stopped talking. His eyes widened. Across the diner, a woman in a dark green coat was watching them. She turned and walked out, but Henry stood up abruptly. I'm sorry. I have to go. If you value your job or your life, stay out of Willow Creek. Back at the station, Maria checked DMV records. Clive Robards was real, a former code compliance officer. But he'd resigned abruptly 2 years ago. She tried calling his last listed number. Disconnected, but his address was still active. She made the drive out there the next morning. It was a small house. The lawn overgrown. No HOA here. She knocked. Nothing. Tried the knob. Unlocked. Inside, it smelled like dust and mold. A quick sweep revealed no one home. But the walls were covered in sticky notes, maps, HOA bylaws, scribbled names, and arrows. In the center was a single post-it. They killed her. I'm next. Maria took pictures. She pocketed one note that stood out. Radley. Wrong place, wrong time. Too curious. She wasn't prepared for what she found in the bedroom. A small lockbox. Inside were 5 burned letters, all partially readable, referencing removals, containment, and board approval for incident response. And a photo. Thomas Radley, sitting on his porch, dated a week before he died. Written in red marker. Target confirmed. Maria left in a panic. She wasn't dealing with a simple dispute. She was dealing with something far more sinister. And Thomas? He'd walked into a nightmare the moment he bought that house. Detective Maria Holland didn't sleep that night. She laid out everything she had on her dining table. HOA meeting minutes, violation reports, anonymous notes from Clive's house, and that photo of Thomas with target confirmed scribbled across it. The deeper she looked, the more disturbing the pattern became. 7 deaths in the last 5 years, all within Willow Creek. All involved residents who had disputes with the HOA. Every one of them ruled either an accident, suicide, or natural causes. But there was something else. Each of the victims had filed formal complaints against the HOA board, and none of those complaints existed in the official HOA archives anymore. They were erased. Maria visited Thomas's sister, Natalie Radley, hoping to learn more. Natalie looked pale, exhausted, but determined. I told him not to move there, she said quietly. He sent me a video 2 days before he died. Said he felt watched. He didn't trust the HOA. He thought they were capable of something terrible. Do you have a video? Maria asked. Natalie unlocked her phone and played it. Thomas sat on his couch, visibly shaken. Behind him, the windows were boarded up. Nat, if anything happens to me, it's not an accident. Don't let them write it off. I filed a complaint. I think I pissed someone off. If they say I killed myself, don't believe it. I want to live. I just want to leave this place. That video changed everything. Maria had proof of intent to live, a clear mental state. She submitted it as part of a formal request to reopen the case as a suspected homicide. But the DA's office pushed back. No signs of foul play. No fingerprints. No evidence of forced entry. It wasn't enough. They wanted a name, a suspect, a motive. So Maria set her sights back on the HOA board. Eloise Cartwright, the president, had lived in Willow Creek for nearly 20 years. She came from old money, a widow with no children, but plenty of influence. Maria visited the HOA clubhouse and asked to speak with Eloise. The board's secretary stalled her. I'm afraid Mrs. Cartwright doesn't meet with outsiders without board approval. I'm not an outsider. I'm a homicide detective investigating a potential murder in your neighborhood. The secretary's face didn't change. Still, she's unavailable. So Maria waited in the parking lot. 2 hours later, Eloise stepped out, dressed in a perfectly pressed suit, her pearl necklace shining in the sun. She walked like royalty, slow, steady, deliberate. Maria approached. Mrs. Cartwright, I'm Detective Holland. I have a few questions about Thomas Radley. Eloise didn't blink. Ah, yes. Tragic. Very sad. But I don't believe we have anything to contribute. He was troubled. He had no documented mental health issues. I meant spiritually troubled. He didn't adapt well to our community. Maria narrowed her eyes. Did you threaten him? Eloise smiled faintly. Detective, Willow Creek thrives on order. People who resist order tend to find life here difficult. It's not a threat. It's simply nature taking its course. It was the way she said it. Calm, polished, like she'd rehearsed it 1,000 times. Maria began investigating other board members. One stood out, Gordon Myers, the treasurer. A former accountant for a security firm, Gordon had access to HOA financial records, and she discovered something odd. A recurring monthly payment labeled Consulting Radley, $4,200. Every month, for 3 years. She traced it to a shell corporation. No website, no phone number, just a P.O. box in another state. She dug deeper. Red Leaf was owned by Clive Robards, the man who disappeared. She drove back out to Clive's abandoned house. The neighbor said a truck had come by in the middle of the night a few days ago, took everything, even ripped the wires out of the walls. Whoever was cleaning up after him was thorough, but they missed something. Behind a vent, Maria found an external hard drive, wrapped in tinfoil and duct tape. At her office, she cracked it open. It was a digital archive, recorded conversations, secret HOA meeting audio, photos, a complete map of Willow Creek with markers on 9 properties, and a folder labeled Final Solution Protocols. Inside were 3 documents outlining a compliance strategy. 1. Psychological pressure through anonymous violations. 2. Property sabotage. 3. Assisted exit. In extreme cases, names were redacted, but the structure matched everything happening to Thomas. Maria couldn't believe it. The HOA had a playbook for removing residents who defied them. It wasn't a community. It was a cult of order. The final file on the drive was chilling. A recording. Thomas Radley's voice, desperate. What do you want from me? Then another voice. Calm. Female. Compliance, Mr. Radley. Or absence. Those are your only choices. Then a muffled scream. And silence. Maria now had motive. A pattern. And a conspiracy. She prepared a report to hand over to Internal Affairs and the DA. But before she could submit it, her power went out. Her phone lit up. Unknown number. You should have stopped at the suicide report, detective. She looked out her window. A car idled across the street. Engine running. Headlights on. Watching. She was officially being hunted. But she wasn't backing down. Not until the whole HOA, every shadowy rule, every silent accomplice, was exposed. Detective Maria Holland didn't go home that night. She checked into a motel 2 towns over, took the hard drive and her laptop, and uploaded every file to a private cloud server. Just in case. Her instincts told her she didn't have much time left. Willow Creek wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a machine, cold, mechanical, and operated by people who saw control as sacred. Thomas Radley was only the latest gear to be crushed for resisting. But Maria had the blueprints now, and she was going to bring the machine to its knees. The next morning, she called Natalie Radley and asked for help. "Natalie, if I go to the DA without someone brave enough to speak publicly, they'll bury this. You're the only one they didn't scare into silence." Natalie hesitated. "They already took my brother. Then don't let them take justice too. Let's make noise. Enough noise that the HOA can't hide." Natalie agreed. Together, they scheduled an emergency press conference. Maria sent a copy of the files to 3 journalists, one local, one national, and one freelance crime blogger, along with this note: "If anything happens to me or Natalie Radley, these files go live. Every single one. Check the HOA playbook. It's murder disguised as management." Within 24 hours, the media descended on Willow Creek. News vans lined the streets. Reporters tried to speak to residents, but the neighborhood closed up, blinds drawn, doors shut, smiles replaced by stone-cold stares. The HOA sent out a formal statement. "The Willow Creek Homeowners Association has always valued order and peace. These baseless accusations are defamatory and false." But then the bomb dropped. Clive Robard was found, alive, hiding in an abandoned warehouse 30 miles north. A local hunter recognized him from a blog post that had gone viral overnight. Police brought him in, and Maria was there for the interview. Clive looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Greasy hair, dark circles, twitching hands. "They made me do it," he whispered. "They said I owed them. They said I was part of it now." "Who is they?" Maria pressed. "Eloise. The board. Gordon handled the money. Eloise gave the orders. The rest, they were just sheep. But me, I helped design the system. I built the tracking spreadsheet, the compliance escalation chart. I didn't think they'd actually kill people." Maria showed him the hard drive. He broke. "Yes, that's it. That's everything. That's their playbook. I helped make it. And I'll testify." That was the nail in the coffin. The DA finally greenlit the arrest warrants. Early the next morning, a joint task force of local police and federal agents stormed the Willow Creek HOA clubhouse and several board members' homes. Eloise Cartwright was found in her study, sipping tea, watching the news. She didn't run. She just smiled. "You people never understand the value of structure," she said as they cuffed her. "Without us, chaos reigns." Gordon Myers tried to flee in a company van marked Landscape Pros, but was intercepted 3 blocks away. 2 other board members were arrested at their homes. One board member, the secretary, had taken her own life the night before. She left a note that read, "We only wanted order, but I didn't sign up for death." The fallout was massive. Maria's investigation made national headlines. HOA murder cult exposed in suburban Colorado. Over the next few weeks, former residents came forward, some describing years of intimidation, mysterious break-ins, property sabotage, and unexplained illnesses. Families of the 7 accidental deaths began demanding exhumations and full autopsies. Eloise Cartwright and Gordon Myers were charged with multiple counts of conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, intimidation, and obstruction of justice. Clive Robards was granted partial immunity in exchange for his full cooperation. The Willow Creek HOA was dissolved by the state. But it wasn't over. Maria received a letter a month later. No return address. Inside was a single photograph, her standing outside her motel, taken during the investigation. On the back, "Not everyone follows the rules. Some enforce them. See you soon." Maria took it seriously. She moved to a different city, changed her number, still work homicide, but under a different department. Even now, she checks over her shoulder when a car follows her for too long. The HOA may be dead on paper, but some of its loyal enforcers are still out there. And the rules? They're still written in blood.